All right, so today we are talking about how to get the most out of your driver. We want to talk a little bit about the data and the research, what actually goes on when the best players, the greats, hit the driver and what you can learn. And there's no better place to do this than at TPI, Titleist Performance Institute, with Mr. Dave Phillips. How are you, sir? Co-founder of TPI. Let's get into this. You know, you've looked at thousands of the best golfers ever.
Yes.
You're going to glean a lot of info from that.
Yep.
Let's start on some of the things that you start seeing.
Yeah, you know, I mean, the traits of great drivers of the golf ball is there's certain things that we find that they all seem to do really well, right? From the setup, the way they set up to the golf ball, the way their angle of attack is and how they move into the golf ball. And again, we've got this incredible 3D system here, plus it's coupled with our force and pressure. So we're able to really dive deep into the data and look at sequencing, how it differs from an iron and how it differs from even like wedges, right?
Because that's a very valid point, because a lot of people watching this will be going, a golf swing is a golf swing.
That's right.
The driver is a specialist club. It may as well be a bunker shot. It may as well be a chip and run. It's very different.
You're absolutely right. So, you know, that I think that is the big misconception, is that one, you're hitting a ball off a tee with an ascending angle, and everything else you have a descending angle. And on certain shots, you need more of a downward angle, like some of your short shots around the green. And then as the club gets longer, you start to move back. Generally with the irons, we're always going to be down. We don't want to be up. We'd be topping it or missing the golf ball. But with the driver, the last thing I really want to be is down. There are some players that live around, when we look at angle of attack with our launch monitors, you'll see on the tour, the averages differ a lot based on speed and what kind of shot they are, whether they're a fader of the ball or they're trying to draw the golf ball. But in general, you know, you'll see some good drivers that have like their go-to shot might be around 0, might be 1 up. And then you'll see the guys that really want to go after it, and we start seeing 3, 4 up. On the LPGA Tour, we're more 4, 5, 6 up, which in essence, I think a lot of us at home don't realize how good the girls are. And you probably have similar speeds to they do. So we keep looking at the best players in the world and the 120, 125 club head speeds and stuff. And we love that, right? But in your own world, if you've been on one of these, you might be 90, 95, 100 miles an hour, which a lot of the best ladies in the world are as well. So I think we've got this misconception. We should be looking at what kind of equipment they're using, how they're launching the golf ball to maximize their distance, right? So most girls on the LPGA Tour, to maximize their driver, we're seeing, you know, angles as much as 5, 6 up. So they're really trying to launch that thing as high as they can, get what speed they have to get this thing in the air, let the aerodynamics of the golf ball and the land angle come in at the right thing. So there are traits that all these players have. So if we want to talk about elite drivers of the golf ball and we look at men, that's a different game on the world tours than the ladies tour. If you're living in your world at the country club, it would be really good to know what your speed is, because then we can start talking about it.
Let's imagine that Andy's a woman.
Okay, Andy.
And then let's just go through some. Let's maybe start at setup and see some of the things that you would get.
Let's do it. So let's check you with the driver, and you're welcome to hit one if you want. I know you've been standing around a little bit.
Well, this is something that, again, that I've worked on a little bit. I'm obviously speaking to you guys and understanding what it is. I definitely feel now that I'm a little bit more on this right side.
So I love that. So just stay right where you are. So this is a trait that we see with great drivers of the golf ball, whether they're ladies or men. So we see this more, and these are force plates. We see a little bit more tension or pressure on the inside of this thigh. We also see something that we call the plumb bob. And I actually have one over there if you could grab that for me. So this is a plumb bob. You can get one of these from your local hardware stores. A plumber or a carpenter would use one of these to find center. We actually bring it in, and what you'll notice with great drivers of the golf ball is, imagine this is the center of my pelvis, right? So if I was just going to hang this down from the center of your belt there, right? What we would normally see on great drivers of the golf ball is it should be slightly back, usually around 1 inch back of center. Right? So the center of your pelvis should actually be behind the center of your stance. Now, a lot of people, and you've seen this to do that, they do it wrong. So they tend to tilt their upper body.
Some people will do this where they're doing this. And look, we've actually told people in the past to do this ourselves. Because we're like, look, we've got to get this reverse K position.
Exactly.
Where the hips nudge this way. the spine is tilting away, but now, as you mentioned...
So now what happens is when I do that, I've actually moved this forward. So my center is now forward. That is not where I want to be. So what we see with the best is go back to what we should be doing. I always want to see this lead hip a little bit high. And a lot of times I'll get behind the player and I'll just bump that hip a little bit high. And then I want to almost move the whole thing over there so that I'm slightly back of center. And that is a trait we see with those best drivers of the golf ball. They are preloading their trail side and they're making sure their center is behind the golf ball. The beauty of this is now we don't have such a huge lateral move. Now, I get that there are players that have a little bit of a trigger. We do see some players that push into their lead side and the ground pushes back and that turns them into their trail side. That's fine. I always like athleticism, but you can still do that with the plumb bob back. You know, you don't know when someone's pushing. I mean, I just pushed into the ground with that side, right? Just then. You can't see it. The only way you can see it is with this. So a lot of times we look at video and we're like, oh, they're not doing this or they're pushing from their lead side. You have no idea with video. You can only do that with force into the ground and having the force graphs, which we do. So to me, that loading mechanism is a huge factor. That would be my number one.
I think people don't necessarily understand the impact that has on impact. What it does to attack angle, what it does to actually face. Gives us a little bit more time to square the face as well, puts everything more behind it.
It does.
So instead of just focusing on tilting the spine, hips is a great thing, and then getting that over to there like this.
Yes.
And some stuff that we've done recently is we'll go and stick a camera this side a lot.
That's a great
you can see a lot of what goes on. And something that we see a lot of from back is we see the right hip high like this, and definitely more on this left side where the upper body is tilted.
And that is not a position to drive the golf ball. You might get away with an iron shot with that, but if you want those little stupid idiot marks on the top of your driver, then do that, right?
And the simple thing is, like, even just for that, alignment stick through the belt loops and just getting that in position like that and then landing on.
So you want to tilt that. You always want this a little bit higher than this, but then you want to move the whole thing over so that you feel more pressure on the inside of that trail foot. And that would be on the medial side or the inside of the trail foot. Once you have it there, one of the other traits is they keep it there as they go to the top, or at least they feel like they do. Now we know from ground force that the minute that club is moving away, a lot of times they've already shifted back, but you can't see that. So a lot of people look at video and go, oh, well, now they're shifting back. No. The best players in the world, they've already done it. They've already shifted back.
Just show at what point you're sort of seeing this.
So you see the load. Now, the maximum right about here, you'll see the maximum in terms of the amount of weight or force they've put into their trail foot. The minute this club is here or the hands past this, they've already moved majority of it back.
So as this is now going up, they're actually going into that left leg.
Yeah, so it doesn't look like it. No. It doesn't even, but what will be happening under all of this is the minute this club does this, you've already started that motion. And so what we've noticed with the best drivers in the world is they do things way earlier than everybody else. They're moving their forces way earlier so that they can maximize how to use those during the golf swing, right? Go to the top of your backswing again. So as we go to the top of our backswing, the next move is this shift back into this side, right? So we know from ground force that the best players do this very early. They push into this, feeling like they're pushing this way, right? Yes. So that move right there creates this rotation and this shallowing of the club.
Just show again when you say this way, which way, sorry?
Yeah, so what I'm trying to do is, it's almost like I got mud on my shoe and I'm trying to go that way. Yeah. I'm trying to go that way. And on the trail side, I'm actually going that way because I'm pushing so hard to get into that side. And that's this ground reaction. There's some cool videos that you see on the internet sometimes. There's one on a guy on ice swinging a golf club, and there's another one on mud. And when you see them, the foot goes like this way and the other foot goes this way and they fall over. And that just shows you that that's where the forces are going.
There's just no frictional grip.
Exactly. So when those forces happen, the ground equal and opposite pushes back, and that creates this rotary motion and this pushing of the ground, which, to your point earlier, you said it, that raises that launch angle, right? So let's talk a little bit about launch because of that. Right? So when you set up to a golf ball, we talked earlier about, we see on the LPGA Tour a launch angle of 4 or 5 degrees, and on the men's it's a little lower because of speed, but if they're really going after it, they do raise their launch angle, right? But again, at their speed, they're trying to hit the fairway more, so it's kind of speed driven. But what we're trying to do is optimize that launch, get that ball high up into the air so it can flatten out and carry a long way. So launch, a lot of people have heard this, you got to hit up on the ball. Well, what we don't want is hitting up on the ball like this, right? So demonstrate like a bad hitting up on the ball for me. Yeah, so anybody that would, there you go. So see, hanging back on the backside, flipping the club, getting this scooping early release of the golf club, that's not hitting up on the golf ball. What hitting up on the golf ball is if those forces are correct and I move into my lead side, it's the pushing of the ground and the raising of this lead shoulder that gets the club out in front of me. And then what we see is the handle of the club starts to raise up and bring that club around.
Yeah.
And that's hitting up.
Do that again for me, just Dave.
Yeah.
This is the big thing when it comes to difference between iron and driver. So when we're seeing this here,
Yep.
and as you're coming up, that's great for hitting up on the golf ball, but it's horrific for hitting an iron shot.
That's right. So a lot of times with the driver, it'll actually look like this leg is moving backwards a little bit, right? So if I drew a line from my outside of my foot straight up, the difference with an iron would be, if I hold the driver right there for me, right there, okay? Just hold it there. You'll see this gap at address. With an iron, a lot of times we'll see as the club goes back, they shift into their lead leg and then they push against the ground, and that would be a great position
That's
to hit
perfect,
an
isn't
iron,
it?
right?
We call this the impact line, and Dave
Yeah.
is all up against that impact line.
That would be what I'd ultimately want for an iron shot. But I wouldn't want that with my driver. So with the driver, what we often see is this movement, the knee gets over to the shaft, but because of the force, they start to push up. And what you'll see is the knee might get there, but the hip never gets there. And that allows them to hit up on that tee, which launches the ball the way we want it to launch, right?
How important is stance width in order for that to create those forces?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So stance width can be dependent a little bit on physical. So, you know, when you step into our world of the physicality wise, someone that has limited hip rotation, I might want them a little bit narrower because a narrower base of support actually helps them. If I get them too wide and they don't have hip range of motion, you'll tend to see a lot of movement.
Yeah.
So, you know, you got to be careful because, you know, we've heard things of, oh, if you want to hit it further, widen that platform a little bit. That's fine if you have good mobility. But if you don't have good mobility, that would suck, right? You're not going to be very good at that.
And it's interesting one on that, just quickly, sorry, jumping in.
Yeah.
You might find, look, you're out, we see you as much at PJ Tour events or major championships than we do here. So you may see some golfers who are, maybe they are wide in the stance, but if you start seeing someone getting a bit narrower in the stance, but you never know what's going on, there might be a mobility issue which is causing that. So the first thing you're going to look at.
That's true.
Isn't it?
That's true. So we do see stance width can vary. In general, you know, I like inside of my feet to be a little bit wider than shoulder width apart with the driver. You know, the biggest dangers here when we talk about that plumb bob is those players that you said that get this way. Because if they're this way at address with the driver, or if this is leaning forward, they either tilt their shoulders and that can create an excessive flat motion, which we don't like. But a lot of this is they'll move into their lead side almost too early, right? And then what you see is everything stalls, and then they're waiting for this club, and a lot of times they'll back up and flip it, and now they've got left of left, right? So there's always these little things that you look for. The beauty of having data is there are millions of ways to swing the golf club, right? There's an efficient way for everybody, but we know it's based more around what you can physically do. So basically, when I look at traits of great drivers, I'm looking at things that are commonalities across the board, regardless of what their swing looks like. You've never seen a great driver of the ball like this. Never seen it. And you won't, because you would never generate any power. You might be a little 200-yard little low one, right? But you're not going to be an optimum driver of the ball for that position. And even players that might look like they've got a bit of a funky move, if you look at the really good traits of great drivers that not only have power, but have control, it's all based on where they set themselves at address. So to me, to be a good driver of the golf ball, it's so much about the address position, right? You're setting yourself up for disaster if you don't put yourself there.
It's amazing how many golfers are actually in a poor setup position though, and they don't even know it. And then you can get them in the right position, and then they hit a shot. It's like all of a sudden the ball comes out very different. The flight is so different as well.
It is.
One of the things that we like to do is to just draw just from a 2D analysis point of view, just draw a box from the outside of the heels up.
Yeah.
And you can clearly see which side of the box are they closer to.
That's a great one.
And then, you know, when if they're closer to this side, we're like, look, let's get you in the box. If anything, let's get you a little closer to the right side of the box.
I totally agree with you. So, you know, killers for me are if the right hip gets high, you mentioned that earlier, that's a danger move for driving the golf ball, right? If they've put the plumb bob way forward and tilted their spine because they think they're going to hit up on it, this is a killer move because normally they go around the corner and now that could send you over the top, right? So when we look at traits, we look at that base of support. I want to feel like this hip's a little bit higher. I'm sitting on this side, almost feeling like there was a line right here and I'm staying there. And then from there, I literally turn around that. And as I'm turning, I am shifting back, but this gives me the best ability to move my lower body up to the golf ball and keep my head back. Because that's another big trait of great drivers of the golf ball. If I draw a circle around their head at address, most good drivers of the golf ball will be a little bit back because they're over this side. Their head usually will stay in that circle or because of rotation, move maybe half a head outside of it. And then it usually moves back and down because everything is moving away from them so that they can launch that thing up in the air. The other trait you don't want to see is I don't want that head moving. Because if that head moves, we're steepening the shaft, and that's not good for driving the golf ball.
It's interesting you saying about the head though there, because I suppose one thing we need to understand is, and maybe we should just break it down in a full fluid motion almost, but talking about if we're saying to a golfer, keep the head back, we've got to be careful though, because we don't want to get that wrong trying to keep it back as well, do we?
That's true. So it's not about like your head's back here and I'm trying to stay back here and go up to the golf ball. It's, you know, I think today there's so much great information. I mean, we have incredible information, but you still have to understand that this is an athletic motion and it's dynamic. We often look at positions on camera. We have 240 frames on our iPhone now. We can slow things down and we look at these positions and we're like, well, I want to get there. But if you actually just run the video and see how they got there, there's a lot more athleticism and fluidity, right? And I'm almost trying to find with a player, what is their natural fluid motion? This is why we ask the question, what other sports have you come from? You know, what other things do you do? Because it kind of gives you a roadmap as to who you're dealing with, right? So I think a lot of times when we say something, you've got to connect the dots and you've got to always bring this into some kind of fluid motion that allows that to happen. That's why I like drills like the step change drill or any of these drills that get this fluid kind of motion going because it gets the legs active.
Keeps it in a full swing as possible almost.
Yeah, and there's lots of things that Dave's talked about there. It doesn't mean that you need to go and do every single one of those right now. No. There's lots of other things that influence sequencing and backswing and the mobility and you know, the physicality of it. But there's certain things certainly within the setup that I think are almost immediate wins that golfers can go and have a look at and just go and understand their own plumb bob and just experiment with that without getting into too many technical changes that could actually screw them up. Because, you know, our responsibility as well, information, but you don't have to apply everything that we say. We want to bring to you the data, the research, the information that you're on better, really.
You're right. And the other big thing, we mentioned hitting up on the golf ball, and that is this ascending angle. So you got to think of this as that club's traveling around that circle and it bottoms out. It's catching the golf ball as it's moving up, right? So that is also sending my swing direction more to the left. So if you're one of those players that you are hitting up and you know that you're working on it and you start to see that ball going left of where you want, that's because you're catching it as it's coming around the corner, like the hula hoop, right? So you need to angle that hula hoop a little bit. You might need to change your setup a little bit and aim a little bit more right with the ball more forward. The more you start hitting up on it, you're going to need to aim more right so that you catch that and the ball goes straight.
We see that, and you haven't TPI'd me yet, but you'll be doing it hopefully soon. But for me, one thing I did, I went down in loft and I put the ball miles forward so I could then force myself to hit up, and I was caught in between basically.
Yeah.
But as a result of that, I can't aim square. I have to aim right. So a lot of people will see me hit a golf shot and go, why are you aiming over there? I was like, I have to, because I'm hitting 5 or 6 degrees up on it now.
That's right. And the danger there is, you know this, and then this is where some players get into this, right? So they try and aim right by K position. They tilt themselves this way because they're trying to hit up on it, but they don't understand that that's not what we're looking for. So again, you know, if you look at there's some great drivers of the golf ball, you know, and I always look at them, it almost looks like the trail leg is a little softer and the lead leg is a little bit longer if they're sitting properly on the side. So that way, the minute this club starts to move, and even if they have a little push this way, they're already rotating kind of around this pivot point. So with the driver, I want you to almost think that you're rotating. If you got these 2 belt loops, there's almost 2 pivot points. You're rotating around this one. I want you to set yourself on this one, and I want you to turn around that one, and then your lower body's gonna go get that one, right? Not your upper body, that would be steep. Your lower body's gonna go to that one, and now go ahead and hit it. And that's what you generally see with good drivers of the ball.
We're talking about traits of greats and great golfers. The biggest sort of comment that we'll get about golf, the amateur golfer will look at a tour player and go, oh, they hit it so effortlessly, and they're not really putting any effort in it. Well, they're hitting the ball with 120 mile an hour club head speed, so they obviously are. So why do their swings look so effortless?
Yeah, so that's actually a great question. And I think that is rooted in what we call the kinematic sequence, right? So if everything is working harmoniously, it's effortless. You know, if everything is, well, it looks fast, or it's usually something's out of position and they're struggling to try and catch up. So when you see these swings that look so effortless, it's that you don't know what's going on underneath. But basically, if that lower body gets that head start, followed by the torso, followed by the arm, followed by the club, you can create this effortless speed, right? So even though it looks like, you know, when you watch World Long Drive, they're going at it as hard as they can and we get long swings, but their sequencing generally is still extremely good. Now, it's not as good as the elite because their only goal is to try and hit this thing as far as they can, and they're basically on a time limit to try and hit 1 ball out of maybe 8 in a grid, right? And that's the way you win World Long Drive. But if you're an elite level tour player that not only maximizes speed but is pretty good accurately wise, it's seldom you ever see someone that has poor sequencing. It's just perfect, Actually, go to the top of your backswing for me. I want you to see this. So go to the top of your backswing. And I got a lesson years ago from a great golf professional by the name of Craig Shankland. And he used to grip my club and he goes, okay, imagine you've just parked your club in the garage and I want you to start down, but leave it there. So start your down. Notice how his lower body goes first. If I pull a little bit on this club, you can see to get me, now go ahead and try and pull me down. Yeah, what are you using?
Yeah, lower body.
Your lower body's going, isn't it? So just a little bit of force on that club gives them the sensation, you know? So if you can get somebody to do that, or even put a rubber band or something in the garage and just leave it there and give this the head start that it needs, that's what actually will create lag, and that's another trait of great drivers of the ball.
Okay, Dave, thank you so much. Some great information there, as always. Now, for more information, guys, on TPI, we'll put the links in the description. Thanks so much, and we'll see you soon.